Imagine American television without Bonanza. Hard to picture, right? The Cartwrights weren't just a family. They were a fixture. They brought us laughs, wild frontier drama, and that good old Western charm that kept millions glued to their sets every week. But while things looked warm and cozy on screen, off-camera, the story was far less peaceful. Behind the Ponderosa pine trees and hearty banter, real tensions brewed, creative clashes, personal disagreements, and flat-out frustrations. And over time, those tensions grew too big to ignore. Cast members, major ones, started leaving. Some exits were quiet, others, not so much. So what really happened? Why did some of Bonanza's biggest stars walk away from one of the most successful shows in television history? Was it ego, burnout, or creative roadblocks? Join us today as we reveal the real reason why these actors left Bonanza. NBC's longest-running Western. When Bonanza first aired on NBC in 1959, it showed promise. Westerns were already popular, but Bonanza felt different. It brought together a cast of actors from all corners of the world and molded them into a family, both on and off screen. The chemistry was real, the setting was grand, and viewers quickly fell in love with the Cartwright clan. But as the series wore on, cracks began to show. Creative tensions started to bubble beneath the surface, and over time, some cast members began questioning the direction the show was headed. Eventually, a number of key players chose to bow out, walking away from one of the biggest shows on American television. So who were the stars that said goodbye? What drove them to leave? Before we dive into the exits and the real reasons behind them, let's rewind to where it all began. Bonanza is an American Western television series that ran on NBC from September 12, 1959 to January 16, 1973. Lasting 14 seasons and 431 episodes, it became NBC's longest-running Western and the second longest-running Western series on American network television, surpassed only by CBS's Gunsmoke. Even today, Bonanza continues to air in syndication, proving that its legacy still holds strong. Set in the 1860s, the series centered on the wealthy Cartwright family who lived near Virginia City, Nevada, on the edge of Lake Tahoe. The Ponderosa Ranch, their sprawling 1,000-square-mile home, wasn't just a backdrop. It was a character in its own right. Through weekly adventures, the show followed the Cartwright patriarch, Ben, played by Lorne Greene, and his three very different sons. Adam, played by Pernell Roberts, the thoughtful, city-educated architect who helped build the family home. Hoss, played by Dan Blocker, the gentle giant with a heart as big as his frame. And Little Joe, played by Michael Landon, the fiery, impulsive youngest son. Each of Ben's sons came from a different wife, one English, one Swedish, and one French Creole, a detail revealed gradually through exposition and flashback episodes. Alongside them was Hop Sing, the family's devoted Chinese cook who added humor, tradition, and heart to the show. As the years passed, new characters came and went. Guy Williams, David Canary, Mitch Vogel, and Tim Matheson each left their mark. But no matter how the cast shifted, the essence of the show remained the same. Bonanza was always about family, not just gunfights or cattle drives, but moral dilemmas, emotional struggles, and standing up for what's right. According to Stephen Battaglio, senior editor for TV Guide, Bonanza was groundbreaking. You always saw stories about families on comedies or anthology series, but Bonanza was the first series that was week to week about a family and the troubles it went through. Bonanza was a period drama that attempted to confront contemporary social issues. That was very difficult to do on television. Most shows that tried to do it failed because the sponsors didn't like it, and the networks were nervous about getting letters. And that's part of what made Bonanza special. It wasn't afraid to tackle big themes, even when it ruffled feathers. But those same ambitions often led to friction behind the scenes. Not every actor agreed with the creative choices being made, Some grew frustrated with their roles. Others wanted more control, more depth, or simply a change of pace. By the early 60s, those tensions began surfacing publicly. Some cast members left voluntarily, others were written out. So who were the characters that left voluntarily? And who were those that were simply written out? Keep watching to find out. Pernell Roberts. Back in the early days of television, when boxy black and white sets lit up American living rooms, landing a regular role on a TV series wasn't exactly seen as a big win in Hollywood. Movies were still the goal for most actors. Television? It paid well, sure, but it wasn't prestigious. And worse, if an actor stuck with one show too long, they risked being typecast forever. This was exactly the kind of problem that weighed heavily on Pernell Roberts when he took the role of Adam Cartwright, the oldest son of rancher Ben Cartwright on Bonanza. Roberts was already a respected stage actor. He had the looks, the charm, and the talent to make it big. In fact, critics had praised him for his theater work. He'd even won a Drama Desk Award in 1955 for playing Macbeth off-Broadway. On film, he had shown promise too, especially in Bud Boetticher's Ride Lonesome. But at the time, few people took B-Westerns seriously, so it didn't do much for his career. Still, actors need to work. Bonanza might not have been Shakespeare, but it offered Roberts steady pay and national exposure. The hope was that it would open more doors, not box him into one. But staying on the show started to take a toll. Roberts eventually admitted that playing the same role week after week became exhausting. In an interview with the Daily News leader, he explained that the experience had worn him down mentally. At one point, he even sought medical help just to deal with the stress. He felt that his character wasn't evolving, and that was frustrating. He explained that while the money was great, it came down to choosing between a comfortable paycheck and the chance to grow as an actor. He chose the latter, even though many people thought he was out of his mind for walking away. Roberts left Bonanza in 1967 after 6 seasons. He immediately went back to theater and landed a role in Vincente Minnelli's Broadway production of Mata Hari. Though critics praised Roberts's performance, the show itself flopped. He then appeared in a few forgettable films that didn't really show off his skills. Eventually, Roberts circled back to television, the very thing he once wanted to escape. This time, though, it worked out better. He landed the lead in Trapper John Maryland, a spin-off of M*A*S*H. The show ran for 7 seasons. But this time, Roberts had more creative freedom. He was also able to return to theater during breaks, which helped him stay fulfilled as an actor. While he never became the huge movie star some expected, he kept working. And in Hollywood, that's saying something. Roberts stepped away from acting in 1997 and passed away in 2010 at the age of 81. Dan Blocker. Beloved Western series Bonanza wasn't just a show, it was a staple of American television. For 14 seasons, it pulled in audiences with the everyday lives of the Cartwright family on the sprawling Ponderosa ranch. Viewers tuned in each week to catch up with Cartwrights. Each Cartwright son brought a unique flavor to the show, but it was Dan Blocker's gentle giant, Hoss, that quickly became a fan favorite. Warm-hearted, big-spirited, and endlessly kind, Hoss Cartwright was the emotional glue holding the Cartwright family together. But before the big man with the soft smile stepped onto the set of Bonanza, Dan Blocker had already lived a full life. Born in DeKalb, Texas in 1928, Blocker was reportedly the heaviest baby ever born in Bowie County at the time, 14 pounds at birth. He later attended Hardin-Simmons University before transferring to Sul-Ross State Teachers College, where he earned a master's degree in dramatic arts. Long before Hollywood came calling, Blocker was drafted into the U.S. Army. He served during the Korean War as an infantry sergeant and received several commendations, including the Purple Heart, for wounds sustained in combat. He didn't speak much about his time in the war, but those who knew him said it left a quiet strength in him that never fully faded. After returning home, Blocker decided to give acting a serious shot. He started small, appearing in theater productions and eventually landing bit roles on television. His first film role was in a Three Stooges short called Outer Space Jitters. But soon, westerns became his bread and butter. He popped up in shows like Gunsmoke, The Restless Gun, Sheriff of Cochise, and Zorro. These appearances helped him hone his skills, but it was a recurring role on the Rifleman and Wagon Train that gave him just enough visibility to land the part that would define his career. Eric Hoss Cartwright. Hoss was written as a big, burly man with an even bigger heart, and Blocker fit that bill perfectly. In fact, the nickname Hoss was a nod to the character's size and gentle nature, like a big, friendly horse. But playing Hoss wasn't as easy as he made it look. In an interview with Cactus Pryor, Blocker once admitted that during the early days of Bonanza, he found it difficult to draw a line between himself and his character. He revealed that in the first few seasons, he was so wrapped up in developing the role that he practically became Hoss in real life. Blocker explained that it wasn't until around the 5th season that he was finally able to draw that boundary. Once he knew who Hoss truly was, he could leave him alone and go get him when I wanted him. He shared that every morning at 7 a.m., he would become Hoss until the end of the workday. But after that, he was able to leave the character at the studio and return to being Dan Blocker again. Then, in 1972, tragedy struck. Blocker underwent what was supposed to be a routine gallbladder surgery, but he developed a post-operative pulmonary embolism and died suddenly. He was only 43 years old. It was a devastating moment for the cast and crew and a major turning point for Bonanza. Rather than recast Hoss or quietly write him off, the producers did something unprecedented at the time. They killed off the character. It was the first time a major TV series had done such a thing, and it shook audiences to the core. Going into season 14, the absence of Hoss was impossible to ignore. David Canary was brought back, and a new character named Griff, played by Tim Matheson, was added to inject some fresh energy. But the chemistry had shifted. The heart of the show was gone. Ratings slipped, and soon after, NBC pulled the plug. Both Michael Landon and Lorne Greene later shared that the show lost something essential when Dan Blocker died. They believed Bonanza was never quite the same without its gentle giant. Off-screen, Blocker had built a quiet, steady family life. He married his college sweetheart, Dolphia, in 1952. Together, they raised 4 children: David, twin daughters Deborah Lee and Dana Lynn, and Dirk. Fittingly, Dirk and David followed their father's footsteps into show business, Dirk as an actor and David as a producer. Years later, in the 1988 TV movie Bonanza: The Next Generation, Hoss's death was finally explained. Writers revealed that he had drowned while trying to save a woman's life. It was a fittingly heroic end for a character who had always been the protector. But for fans, no explanation could fully fill the void left behind by Dan Blocker, on screen or off. His presence had been a pillar of Bonanza, and without him, the ranch felt quieter, the family incomplete. Still, the Ponderosa endured, and into that space rode a new kind of strength. David Canary. You might remember David Canary as Candy, the spirited foreman of the Ponderosa Ranch in Bonanza. But the Candy that viewers fell in love with wasn't the original version that was first conceived. According to an interview with the Associated Press, Canary once revealed that the character was initially written to be far more aggressive. He explained that Candy was originally imagined as a violent man, but that this concept was eventually softened. The shift, as he put it, was largely a response to what he described as the anti-violence thing, a cultural pushback that was sweeping through television at the time. Despite becoming a fan favorite, Canary left the series after just 3 seasons, and his sudden departure left viewers confused and disappointed. Behind the scenes, the real story was more about business than character development. His exit, though brief in explanation, played a major role in altering the show's dynamic and energy. In this look back at Bonanza, we explore the reasons why Canary walked away, how his absence affected the show's tone, and why Candy Canady's legacy continues to linger in the hearts of longtime fans. David Canary joined Bonanza in its 9th season and wasted no time in making his mark. As Candy Canaday, the Cartwrights' foreman, he brought youthful energy and sharp instincts to the Ponderosa. It didn't take long for fans to embrace him as one of the family. He was reliable, charming, and capable, exactly the kind of character that audiences wanted to root for. But just as viewers were beginning to feel like Candy belonged permanently, he vanished. The reason behind Canary's departure wasn't tied to any storyline. It came down to salary and contracts. During negotiations, both Landon and Lorne Greene had successfully secured significant raises. Canary, on the other hand, was offered only a modest increase. Feeling undervalued, he chose to leave. His exit wasn't framed dramatically on screen, he simply faded out of the narrative, leaving behind a gap that the writers scrambled to fill. In his absence, producers tried to compensate by introducing new characters. Griff King, played by Tim Matheson, brought youthful swagger. Jamie Cartwright, played by Mitch Vogel, added a different kind of dynamic. But many loyal viewers felt that these new additions couldn't replicate what Candy had brought to the show. The energy shifted, so did the ratings. The show continued for a while, but the momentum wasn't the same. Viewership began to slip, and many point to this period, following Canary's departure, as the beginning of the end. Although the series pushed on through its 14th season, the magic was fading, and eventually, Bonanza was cancelled. Still, Candy's legacy never disappeared. Canary had made such a strong impression that fans continued to talk about him even after he left. His role became part of the show's mythology, proof of how powerfully a single character can shape the atmosphere of a long-running series. The affection for Candy wasn't just about the scripts or the action, it was about the heart Canary brought to the role. His departure highlighted a recurring issue in the entertainment world: the imbalance in how talent is recognized and rewarded. Canary's situation served as a reminder that even beloved characters aren't immune to the politics of television. It also spoke volumes about his self-worth. He walked away rather than settle for less than he felt he deserved, and yet he returned. 2 seasons later, following the unexpected death of co-star Dan Blocker, who played Hoss Cartwright, Canary was invited back, reportedly at the urging of Landon. He accepted. Over the course of the series, he appeared in a total of 93 episodes, leaving a lasting imprint. But long before Bonanza, David Canary had already built a strong foundation as a stage and screen actor. Born in Indiana and raised in Ohio, he was a gifted athlete and even played college football at the University of Cincinnati. He was drafted by the Denver Broncos but chose drama over sports, eventually studying at the prestigious University of Denver and then moving on to train in New York. His decision to pursue acting would lead him to Broadway, soap operas, and eventually to a spot on one of TV's most iconic westerns. After Bonanza, Canary didn't slow down. His most notable post-Bonanza role was playing the dual characters of Adam Chandler and Stuart Chandler on the soap opera All My Children. The role earned him multiple Daytime Emmy Awards and showcased his extraordinary range. His ability to bring depth, charisma, and complexity to 2 completely different characters cemented his reputation as a versatile and immensely talented actor. Even decades after Bonanza aired its final episode in 1973, the show's legacy remains powerful. It helped define the American Western, not just with its landscapes and action-packed scenes, but with its focus on family, loyalty, and moral values. Characters like Candy Canaday didn't just fill space on screen, they became symbols of the era, icons that fans still remember with fondness. Candy's role was more than just another name on the cast list. He symbolized a new chapter in Bonanza's run, a fresh spark of energy that helped propel the series into its later seasons. His presence and absence highlighted how one actor's performance could shift the entire mood of a show. But as the years wore on, it wasn't just Candy's absence that was felt. One by one, the lights that once brought life to the Ponderosa began to fade. Bonanza casts who are no longer with us today. Since Bonanza first hit American screens in 1959, it has remained one of television's most iconic westerns. But decades after its final episode aired, most of its original cast members have passed away. Still, their careers and lives didn't end when they rode off the Ponderosa Ranch for the last time. One of the most enduring figures among them was Lorne Greene, the man who played the patriarch Ben Cartwright in every single episode across Bonanza's remarkable 14-season run. Lorne Greene was more than just the firm but fair father figure of the Cartwright clan. Born Lyon Hyman Greene in Ottawa, Canada, in 1915, he began his professional life in a much different arena. He studied chemical engineering at Queen's University, but his rich, commanding voice pulled him in another direction. After graduation, he trained in theatre at the prestigious Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London. He would later become known as the Voice of Canada during World War II, serving as the chief news broadcaster for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. His gravitas and baritone delivery made him a household name long before he ever put on a cowboy hat. Greene's acting career began on the stage, but by the 1950s, he was steadily moving into television and film. His big break came when he was cast as Ben Cartwright on Bonanza, a widowed father raising 3 sons on a sprawling Nevada ranch. The role was tailor-made for Greene's strengths. His screen presence was steady, warm, and authoritative. Audiences trusted him. He wasn't just playing the head of a fictional family. He was the heart of Bonanza. But by the late 1960s, even Greene was starting to feel the weight of longevity. In a 1967 interview with reporter Bobby Wygant, he offered a candid response when asked if he hoped the show would continue for another 8 years. He replied that he didn't. Greene explained that after a long run in television, any actor eventually reaches a point where other interests begin to pull at them. He remarked that one begins to feel there are things that must be done before it's too late to do any of them. Despite those feelings, Greene remained committed to the show until its very last season, which wrapped in 1973. Once Bonanza ended, he didn't disappear from public life. Instead, he pivoted. During the 1970s, Greene released several country music albums, taking advantage of his deep melodic voice. His songs didn't top the charts, but they added a personal layer to his legacy. He even scored a minor hit with the spoken-word ballad Ringo in 1964, which surprisingly reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Then, in 1978, Greene made a surprising leap from the Old West to outer space. He was cast as Commander Adama in the original Battlestar Galactica. The role once again saw him as a strong, fatherly leader, this time guiding a fleet of ships on a desperate search for Earth. The character carried echoes of Ben Cartwright, but with a sci-fi twist. It was a bold move and a refreshing change of pace, helping Greene connect with a new generation of viewers. Off-screen, Greene was known for his calm demeanor and quiet dignity. He was deeply proud of his Canadian heritage and maintained close ties to his homeland. He also supported various environmental and humanitarian causes, using his fame to amplify issues he cared about. Lorne Greene passed away on September 11, 1987, at the age of 72. He died from complications following pneumonia after undergoing surgery for a bleeding ulcer. His death marked the end of a life steeped in performance, character, and storytelling. Yet his legacy lives on, not just through Bonanza and Battlestar Galactica, but through the lasting image of Ben Cartwright, firm in his beliefs, gentle with his sons, and a moral compass in a time of TV cowboys and frontier chaos. More than 3 decades after his death, Greene remains one of the most recognizable faces of classic American television. His roles helped define what it meant to be a television patriarch, and his voice, whether delivering wartime news or narrating frontier struggles, still resonates with those who grew up watching him. For fans of Bonanza, Lorne Greene wasn't just Ben Cartwright. He was the Ponderosa itself, sturdy, wise, and unforgettable. Landon was just in his early 20s when he took on the role that would launch his career, Little Joe Cartwright, the youngest son on Bonanza. With his tousled hair, roguish grin, and piercing eyes, Landon brought a youthful spark to the Ponderosa. For millions of viewers, he wasn't playing a cowboy, he was Little Joe. Born Eugene Maurice Orowitz in 1936 in Forest Hills, New York, Landon had anything but a peaceful childhood. His mother struggled with mental illness, and the emotional toll of her suicide attempts shaped his outlook. In high school, he excelled in javelin and earned a scholarship to USC. But an injury derailed his athletic path and nudged him toward acting. He picked his stage name, Michael Landon, from a phone book and began landing roles in low-budget movies, including the 1957 cult hit I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Then Bonanza came calling. Landon infused Little Joe with a fiery spirit and emotional depth. Over time, he began writing and directing episodes, rare for someone his age, becoming a major creative force behind the scenes. After Bonanza ended in 1973, he found even greater fame as Charles Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie, and later as an angelic drifter in Highway to Heaven. Landon built tight-knit sets and was beloved for his loyalty to cast and crew. His shows, always rooted in family values and heart, reflected the man behind the camera. In 1991, at just 54, Landon died from pancreatic cancer. The loss hit fans hard. To this day, many remember him not just as a TV icon, but as someone who brought heart and humanity to every role. And for Bonanza fans, he'll always be Little Joe, the soul of the Ponderosa. Ray Teal. By the time Ray Teal rode onto the Bonanza set, he was already a seasoned veteran of the Western genre, with a face that seemed carved from the frontier itself and a voice that carried the weight of quiet authority. Teal brought authenticity to every role he played. Born in 1902 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, he had worked steadily in Hollywood for decades, building a resume that included appearances in Colt .45, Empire, and The Everglades. Teal joined Bonanza as Sheriff Roy Coffey, a dependable lawman who embodied small-town justice with patience and dignity. Though never flashy, his character was a stabilizing force on the Ponderosa, someone the Cartwrights and the audience could trust when trouble rolled into town. His understated presence gave the series depth, and his scenes always had a natural, lived-in quality. Teal passed away in April 1976 at the age of 74. By then, he had logged over 300 film and TV credits. While his name might not have been shouted in headlines, his face and his steady, calming presence became a familiar part of the American television landscape. Guy Williams. Tall, charismatic, and impossibly handsome, Guy Williams was tailor-made for TV screens. Born Armando Joseph Catalano in New York City in 1924, he initially made his mark as the swashbuckling lead in Zorro, the iconic Disney series that turned him into a household name. So when Bonanza was looking to fill the void left by Pernell Roberts, Williams seemed like a natural fit. He stepped into the role of Will Cartwright, Ben Cartwright's nephew, introduced to viewers shortly after Adam's departure. The character had potential, a fresh face, a family connection, and a strong screen presence. But despite all that, Williams' time on Bonanza was short-lived. Behind the scenes, there were whispers. Rumors spread that Michael Landon, already one of the show's central creative forces, felt threatened by Williams' rising popularity and rugged good looks. The tension reportedly contributed to Williams being quietly written out after just a few episodes. But if Bonanza didn't fully embrace him, the science fiction world certainly did. In 1965, Williams took on a very different kind of role. Professor John Robinson, the noble and composed father on Lost in Space. The show gave him another round of fame, this time among a new generation of fans. After the series wrapped, Williams gradually stepped away from Hollywood and retired to Argentina in 1979, where he was adored by locals and often recognized as Zorro. He died in 1989 of a brain aneurysm, leaving behind a legacy that stretched from the American West to galaxies far beyond. Victor Sen-Yung. Another Bonanza cast we have lost is the funny yet unforgettable Hop Sing. Victor Sen-Yung brought a unique kind of energy to Bonanza, one that balanced warmth with wit and humor with resilience. Born in San Francisco in 1915 to Chinese immigrant parents, Yung faced a film industry that often gave Asian actors limited, stereotyped roles. But he managed to break through, first gaining fame as Jimmy Chan, son of the legendary detective Charlie Chan in that long-running film series. On Bonanza, Yung played Hop Sing, the Cartwright family's loyal cook, a character that could have easily been reduced to caricature in the wrong hands. But Yung added depth and dignity to Hop Sing, making him a beloved part of the Ponderosa family. In a subtle but significant moment of television history, Hop Sing was also part of one of the earliest interracial romantic storylines on American television, marking a quiet breakthrough in an otherwise conservative genre. After Bonanza, Yung took on the role of Uncle Charlie in Bachelor Father, continuing to represent Chinese-American characters on primetime television at a time when they were few and far between. Outside of acting, he had a surprising second career. As a chef, passionate about food, he even published the Great Wok Cookbook, bringing Chinese recipes into American kitchens long before fusion cuisine became trendy. His life took a frightening turn in 1972 when he was shot in the back during a commercial airline hijacking. He survived that ordeal, but sadly, in 1980, he passed away from accidental natural gas poisoning in his home. Despite the challenges he faced both in the industry and in life, Victor Sen-Yung left behind a legacy that reflected grace, perseverance, and an undeniable presence that still resonates with fans of Bonanza. Which Bonanza cast was your favorite? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. And click the next video on your screen. You'll enjoy it.